Hey everybody, you're watching a physio named Jonah. That's this guy. It's another video today of what is it and why should I care? It's the kind of video where I tell you what something is and why you should care about it. This video is going to be highlighting the muscles of the shoulder, specifically the rotator cuff. So hold on tight, it's gonna be a crazy ride! I mean, probably not. It's just the rotator cuff. It's pretty straightforward. It's got a pretty good handle on it. I think you will too after this video. The rotator cuff is the term commonly used to describe four of the smaller muscles in the shoulder. The muscles of the rotator cuff contain the prime movers of internal and external rotation of the shoulder, which is likely where the name comes from. Rotation for rotator, and cuff either for the cuff-like appearance that the group of muscles has around the head of the humerus or of the arm, or very possibly from the small cuff links that exist between the muscle and the bone. That is a joke. With that in mind, let's do a roll call through the four rotator cuff muscles in the shoulder. Here to help me make this announcement is every loud and obnoxious announcer ever. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the shoulder. Please join me in welcoming tonight's 4 stars. First on the building, sitting atop the shoulder, the prince of abduction, but watch out for those impingements. Here's Supraspinatus! Next up, the terrible twosome of rotators. They sit on the back of the shoulder blade, but they're not hiding. Please welcome Teres Minor and Infraspinatus. And finally, last but not least, sitting beneath the shoulder blade, getting way too cozy with your ribcage. Here it comes. It's Subscapularis. Thanks, Penny. And now, these 4 muscles in the ring. Let's get ready to rotate. Thanks, chat. And that's the rotator cuff. The rotator cuff is made up of the Infraspinatus, Supraspinatus, Subscapularis, and Teres Minor. They pull onto the shoulder into the movements of external rotation, internal rotation, as well as abduction. They also play a very important role in stability, but let's jump into the next section for that. The 4 muscles of the rotator cuff provide a lot of the stabilizing force for the shoulder. Now when we think about this, picture the shoulder like a golf ball resting on a tee. The muscles of the rotator cuff hold the ball, or head of humerus, on the shallow T of the shoulder blade attachment. Obviously gravity wants to pull the ball down at rest, so the cuff has to hold the shoulder up. Then the muscles of the front and back have to balance, so the ball isn't pulled too far in one direction. There's a lot that these small muscles have to coordinate, and that's just when you're standing there. Let's think about how this actually works in real life. Sure, we spend some time standing there like this, but we also spend a lot of our life moving our shoulders. Think about what these muscles of the rotator cuff have to do as the shoulder moves. They have to balance how much one is contracting, how much some is stretching, to allow the head or ball on that T to move and rotate without moving too much in one direction or being held too tightly in another. I think it's important to use an example that we can all identify with though to make it seem a little more practical. Let's use something that we all do every day, like reaching up over top of your head. For whatever reason you have to do it. As you lift your arm forwards, the muscles at the front of the shoulder are going to shorten, while muscles at the back of the shoulder have to lengthen out. As the big muscles are causing the shoulder to move and rotate forwards, the rotator cuff has to also be contracting and relaxing in a similar fashion to keep that head of the humerus on the glenoid fossa, or keep the ball on the T throughout that motion. And there's a lot of movement that's happening there. The fact that the rotator cuff is able to coordinate with the larger muscles of the shoulder as we move is incredible when you think about it. There's a really delicate balancing act happening there between bigger muscles causing movement and the smaller muscles of the rotator cuff reacting underneath to keep the shoulder stable. Things aren't always working so perfectly though, so let's take a look at what happens when there's problems with the rotator cuff. Of course, we have to discuss injuries to the rotator cuff when we think about why we care about this muscle group in general. Most injuries that happen to the rotator cuff involve an irritation or tearing of the rotator cuff muscle itself or the tendon that connects it to the bone. This means that most injuries to the rotator cuff fall into the muscle strain or tendinopathy category. At this point, most people start to care a lot about the rotator cuff if they have an injury like this. We talked about what the rotator cuff is doing earlier, and it is active a lot of time throughout the day, so if there's an injury there, people are very likely going to feel it. Another common pain presentation is impingement syndrome in the shoulder. This is a pattern where the pain is localized to or possibly involving the supraspinatus tendon and where it passes below the acromion of the shoulder blade right here. Impingement syndrome, or pain at the front or top of the shoulder, often involves many other structures in the shoulder as well, but the rotator cuff is likely going to be a very important part of diagnosing and treating this condition, so I wanted to bring it up here and mention it. It is also possible to fully rupture the rotator cuff muscles or the tendons that are attaching those muscles to the bone. Not a lot of fun. In this case, it is possible that it may require surgery, however it also may not. I'm not going to go into too much detail here in terms of rotator cuff tears, complete tears, incomplete tears, because I think that could be a good video all on its own. If you're interested in that, let me know in the comments section below, as again, that could be its own good separate video. What I will say here about rotator cuff tears is if you think you do have an incomplete or complete rotator cuff tear, I do highly recommend working with a healthcare provider to help you understand what the best pathway forward is for you and navigate the healthcare system as you need to. Answering the question I posed at the top of the video, what is it and why should I care? The rotator cuff is a group of 4 muscles in the shoulder, and I hope you know their names by now. You should care about it because it is incredibly important in stabilizing the shoulder, and an injury here can be not a very fun time. If you made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for checking out my channel and hanging out with me as we chat about the rotator cuff for a while. You're obviously my kind of person because you want to talk about shoulders, and I could talk about physiotherapy all day long. If you enjoyed this video, consider hitting the thumbs up button below. That helps out the channel a lot. Or you can subscribe so you get notifications on when I release new videos. This also helps the channel a lot as it helps my videos reach more interested viewers just like yourself. Hit me up in the comment section down below if you have questions about the rotator cuff, the shoulder, impingement syndrome, kind of whatever. I'm more than happy to hear from you guys, and I always look forward to answering those comments. Most importantly though, guys, as always, move your body, have a laugh today, and I will see you at the next video. Ladies and gentlemen, these are your 4 muscles of the evening. Oh, damn it, Penny. Shush for a second. Shh. Now, with these 4 muscles... Penny? You in the ring. Oh.